In this video, we're going to cover the Legends 2024 qualifier workouts. We put together a strategy guide. In there, you can find things like warm-ups, strategy, and points of performance. You can download that in the link below. Also, at the end of this video, we've got my demo of the Legends Qualifier 24.1, so you can see exactly how I approach the workout. Now let's break down the workouts one by one. All right, so first we're going to cover Legends Qualifier workout 24.1. This workout, this is the chipper. It starts with double unders, then wall ball, burpees, hang cleans, and finishes back with double unders. I just tested this workout, and in my opinion, just the way it felt, the whole workout kind of revolved around managing fatigue early on in the double unders, the wall ball, and the burpees. The whole workout was basically the hang cleans, trying to minimize fatigue going into the hang cleans so you can hang on to bigger sets. So we'll talk about a little bit of strategy here. So first off, for the double unders, if you're really proficient, I'd recommend just going unbroken, but trying to stay as relaxed as possible while you're going through those double unders so that you're just not getting close to your red line yet. If you're a little bit less proficient on double unders, then maybe break them 50 with a short break and then 50 again. And just that short break can take some tension off, let your heart rate calm down, and just keep you under better control. When you get to the wall ball, I did sets of 10 across the workout, and I would recommend most people, unless you are just so good at wall ball and it's like your best movement, keep them small sets with a very short break. Try and do 10s with at most a 5-second break. That's really not costing you that much in terms of overall time loss in the workout, but it's really going to prevent you from getting close to your red line going into the burpees. My thought was I wanted to be as calm as possible getting into the burpees so that I could just keep them cycling fast. So I would say something like 10s with 5 seconds breaks, or even 15, 15, 10, 10 if you're a little bit better with the wall ball. When you get to the burpees, the thing here is just to focus on moving efficiently, stay low to the bar, turn in the air, make sure that you're just moving as steady as possible, but you're also trying to mitigate fatigue going into the hang power cleans. When you get to the hang power cleans, you need to have a plan to have kind of conservative breaks all the way through it. I originally was thinking that I might be able to go like 15, 15, 10, 10, similar to what I said for the wall ball, but my breaks were nowhere near that. And I actually think that this is kind of the crux of this workout. So have a plan to do, somewhere between 5s and 10s, and have someone count your rest here. Whether it's, I'm going to take 5 seconds rest or 7 seconds rest between sets. You need to have someone to hold you accountable, because when you get into this part of the workout, it's really easy to take long rests, because honestly, you're going to be feeling pretty fatigued. As long as you've managed your fatigue up to this point, you should be able to get on the double unders and just go for broke. That's the key in this workout, is you get there and you're going to have to just go for unbroken. If you trip here, just step over the rope and keep going. Even if you have low double under capacity, it's the end of the workout. You just have to kind of force yourself to keep going. So overall, what I would say is use the first kind of 3/4 of the workout up until the hang cleans to just kind of control your heart rate, control your breathing, control your pacing. And then when you get to those hang cleans, that's the crux of the workout. You got to push, make it hurt a little bit, and then just kind of finish it out on the double unders. Legends Qualifier workout number 24.2 is a 16-minute AMRAP of row, toes to bar, and dumbbell one arm shoulder to overhead. Some basic recommendations for this workout are, number one, because it's a lot of rowing, 20 calories, 16 calories for most people is going to take a minimum of a minute per round. You got a 16-minute AMRAP, which means you're going to be doing quite a few rounds of rowing. Make sure that you pick not an aggressive pace on the rower, but a pace that's going to allow you to kind of sustain all the way through. Now we've got in our strategy doc, we've got a rowing calorie chart that shows you your row pace and what you can expect to hit 20 calories or 16 calories for women in how much time it's going to take. And I would recommend going and building a strategy based around that. My recommendation for people, at least in some of the younger divisions, for the men, 20 calories at 1,200 calories per hour will take you almost exactly a minute. And for women, very similar. If you're around 1,000 calories per hour, 16 calories is going to take you about exactly a minute. So try and be right around that sweet spot. For the 8 toes to bar, I think for most athletes in the younger divisions, this is probably going to be unbroken. Unless you're someone who has a little bit weaker toes to bar, or you're going to end up with some grip fatigue from the row into the toes to bar, I think this should probably be unbroken, but maybe you need to consider doing 4-4 from the start just to preserve that grip and just keep consistent sets all the way through the workout. For the 20 dumbbell shoulder to overhead, it's a single dumbbell. So my recommendation is going to be to try to push for unbroken sets if you can. Do 10 on the right, 10 on the left, and transition that dumbbell in the air. So when the dumbbell's overhead, just switch hands, bring it down, and keep going. That's gonna minimize rest time. The only thing I will say is with 20 dumbbell shoulder to overhead, you could do 10 on the right, put it down, take a very short break, 1, 2, 3 breath, and then pick it up and go for the other arm. The only thing is, I think that time right there is going to contribute to a lot of time added later on in the workout. As you start to get fatigued, people tend to rest a lot longer between their breaks. And I think transitions in this workout and minimizing rest time is going to be key, because you're not going to be resting on the rower. Most people aren't going to be breaking the toes to bar. So if you're resting in the dumbbell, you're competing against other people who are probably going to cycle it and just switch arms, right? Rather than putting the dumbbell all the way down. So my global recommendation here is going to be to try to complete all of this work unbroken if you have that capacity, and minimize your transition times. This is going to be a transition heavy workout. You don't need to go for broke on any movement. You don't need to push the row super hard. You don't need to go really deep to try and do the shoulder to overhead, because you can always switch hands. Just make sure that you're moving steady and minimizing your rest here. Legends Qualifier workout 24.3 is a heavy front squat combined with bar muscle ups. And for some of the older divisions, it progresses from chest to bar to bar muscle ups by the last round. In my mind, this workout comes down almost entirely to how strong you are relative to the barbell weight for your division. If you're someone who's really strong relative to the 205-pound front squats for the men, the men 35 to 54, or the 135, 125 for the younger divisions, then what you want to do here is try and push for those front squats to be unbroken. The only thing is, because front squats, especially around these heavier weights, can cause people to brace and get really out of breath and drive heart rate really high, you might end up needing to break these just in that first set. So that set of 12 to start out might need to be broken like 6-6 or even like a 7-5 break, just to mitigate fatigue later on, especially since the structure of the workout is 12, 8, 4 front squats, and then 4, 8, 12 bar muscle ups, because you're going to be getting right back, if you're pretty good at bar muscle ups, right back to the front squats. You're going to do 12, a quick 4 bar muscle ups, and you're going to be going right back to 8 front squats. So that structure is different if it were 12 front squats and 12 bar muscle ups. So just keep that in mind. If you have good capacity on the bar muscle ups, I think you're probably going to be able to go unbroken all the way until that set of 12. But at that point, my guess is grip and shoulder fatigue from the front squats are going to start to add up, and people are going to need to potentially break. That might be like an 8-4, or it might even be just a smaller set like 4-4-4. For some of the older divisions that are still doing bar muscle ups, where bar muscle up capacity has started to, to come down a little bit, maybe consider doing the set of 4 unbroken, and then for the set of 8 doing 4-4, and then maybe 3 sets of 4 or 4 sets of 3 for the bar muscle ups. And again, the same front squat rules kind of apply across all divisions. If you're really strong relative to that weight, consider going unbroken. But even in some of the older divisions, if that front squat weight is going to blow you up, raise your heart rate, and keep you out of breath moving into the bar muscle ups, then I would recommend breaking that first set at a minimum. The other thing to consider is with a front squat, especially when it's combined with another upper body pulling movement like bar muscle ups or ring muscle ups, is to switch from a traditional front rack to a cross rack front rack. What that's going to do for you is it's going to take some of the tension out of your arms and out of your grip and make it so that you can actually hang on in that last set of bar muscle ups. I might even consider doing something like in the set of 12 front squats, do 6 with a traditional front rack, and then just slip your hands out and go into a cross rack and do the last 6 reps like that. The only challenge is 205, 135 for the younger divisions, 185, 125 for some of the older divisions. It's still a pretty heavy front squat, and maintaining an upright torso with that cross rack can be a challenge. So play around with it in warm up, but it could potentially be the thing that allows you to go deep in that last set of bar muscle ups just by switching that front rack early on in the sets. Overall, big picture, probably mitigate fatigue with some breaks on the front squats early on. Be ready to dig deep on those bar muscle ups at the end of this workout. Legends Qualifier 24.4 is a little bit more complex than the other ones. You're going to start out with 4 dumbbell deadlifts and 4 handstand push-ups. Now there's some adjustments for some of the older age groups, so make sure you take a look at that in their standards guide. However, you're going to add 4 reps to each movement as the workout progresses. So your first round is going to be 4 and 4, and then 8 and 8, then 12 and 12, so on and so forth. So this is going to add up quickly, especially since you're adding 4 reps per round Often we're only adding like 3 reps per round, so the accumulation's a little bit smaller. But by the time you get to the 16s, the handstand push-ups and the deadlifts are both going to get pretty dense. Now, you're doing that for 8 minutes. That's an 8-minute AMRAP. You're going to have a 2-minute rest window, and then you're going into a max clean. And so there's a lot of moving parts in this workout. I think first and foremost, with the dumbbell deadlift and the handstand push-up, one of the most important things in this part of the workout is to focus on your transition from the handstand push-up to your first set of deadlift. What's going to happen is people are going to get tired, and when you get tired, you want to rest. But that transition right there, you're not going to need the rest before you pick up the deadlift, because you're doing handstand push-ups, which are primarily going to fatigue the shoulders, going into deadlift, which is primarily going to fatigue the posterior chain. Even though you don't want to pick up the dumbbells, getting to the dumbbell and picking it up and doing your first set of deadlifts. So say you're in the round of 16 and doing a set of 6 to start, just getting the movement started can be a great way to get yourself to transition and kind of shift your head to, I'm doing the deadlift now, and start chipping away at that. Once you get out of the small sets, the 4 and the 8, people are going to need to consider breaking both the dumbbell deadlift and the handstand push-ups. And I think that doing that is potentially going to save your lower back and save some shoulder fatigue when you get to the clean 1RM later in the workout. But in general, I think most people who have really good capacity are going to be able to maintain some pretty big sets all the way through the 12s, and then are going to need to consider breaking in the 16s. If your handstand push-up capacity is not quite where you want it to be, you're looking at like a set of 12 and you're like, that's a big set, then I would consider breaking from the start. Even doing 2-2 on the set of 4, just because you can go unbroken doesn't mean you need to go unbroken. When you get to the 6s, maybe consider going 3-3 or 3 sets of 2. When you get to the 8s, just do 2-2-2 across. If you can be consistent with that, with a kind of planned rest break where you kick down, take a breath, shake your shoulders out, kick back up, and do your next 2, that can be really effective, especially later on in the workout. You can potentially pass people who overreach their capacity early on in the workout. So I think if you're really good at these 2 movements, this is about just burning it down, maybe starting to take some breaks in the 16s and 20s. If your capacity lacks early on in this workout, just stay consistent and you'll pass some of the people who bit off more than they could chew early on. You have a 2-minute rest. And I think a lot of times people don't use their 2-minute rest between the Metcon part and the max lift part as effectively as they should. So some of the things I think you should think about. 1, sit down. You're going to probably want to change your equipment, right? You're probably going to be wearing your normal shoes, your CrossFit shoes. You're going to want to change into your lifters. So take that time, change into your lifters, get your belt on, drink some cold water. It'll help calm the nervous system. I wouldn't think about trying to calm your breathing down, because slowing down your breathing rate can actually slow down your recovery within that window. So just let yourself breathe heavy, put on your shoes, put on your belt, get some ice water, dry off your hands so you're ready to go, chalk up your hands. At the end of that 2-minute rest window, be ready to lift right away. So let's talk a little bit about the clean. You're going to need a plan here. You have 5 minutes to hit a max clean, which means you're going to get 3 to maybe 4 attempts within that window. So here's how I would structure it. Your first lift needs to be a lift that you know with 100% certainty that you're going to hit, even with all the lower back and posterior chain fatigue from that initial Metcon. So that might be something that's like 75-80% of your 1RM. Then your next lift, you're going to take at the 90-second mark. Take that lift and it should be just a jump a little bit ahead, something that you think, I'm confident I can hit, but there might be a little bit of risk there. Then at the 3-minute mark, take another lift. And at that point, that should be your goal weight for this workout, something that you would be super happy with hitting. Be like, man, this was a great weight. Then right at the 5-minute mark, because the rules say that if you have the bar lifted off the ground before the 5-minute mark, it's a good lift. So right at like 4:55, you take your last lift. And that should be like the pie in the sky. This would be this would make my whole season kind of thing. That would be your target goal lift. So know what weights you're going to put on there before you start, because in that 2-minute window, your head's going to be foggy, you're going to be breathing hard, you're not really going to be able to make good decisions about what weights you should hit. So you should know that going into the workout. So have a plan. I'm going to hit my first one right on the 0, one at 90 seconds, one at 3 minutes, and then one right at that kind of 4:55 mark. That way you get the most rest before your heaviest lift. I think overall, if you follow that strategy, you should end up hitting somewhere around that 90 to 94% of your 1RM. That's typically what we see people hitting in a 1RM right after a Metcon, assuming that you're prepared and like peaked for the qualifier. So overall strategy stuff here, make sure in the first part that you work within your capacity. If you know that you're not going to make it through like the 12s and the 16s unbroken because you don't have that capacity, to consider breaking the earlier sets so you can stay consistent. If you're good, just go for it. Then when you get to the clean, have a plan, know what you're going to do during that rest window. Make sure you have all the plates set up and you're ready to go so you're not scrambling to make, like split-second decisions when your brain isn't really in a position to be doing that. All right, guys, now we're going to watch my 24.1. I'm going to talk over it and give you a little bit of insight into how I approach the workout. And we're off here. All right, so the workout starts with double unders. Obviously, this is a movement that if you're not proficient, it can really blow you up doing a big set like 100. However, I've worked a lot on double under capacity over the last year, or actually the last like 3 or 4 years. So I was pretty confident going into this that I could do this unbroken and not really have any consequences here. Some of the things that I recommend that people do during double unders, number one, try and keep your jump very low. I think when people are trying to quote unquote be efficient or like, I want to make sure I do this set unbroken, they tend to jump higher, which takes a lot more effort. You're going to use your calves and legs a lot more. You also have to spin the rope a little bit slower, and I think just in general, it's not quite as efficient. So the things that I'm focusing on all the time to try and keep double unders efficient are stay low and turn the rope pretty fast. I say relatively fast. Obviously, I wasn't trying to do those at like max speed. All right, transition to the wall ball, maybe a little bit slow there, but not too bad. Finish those double unders right at a minute. Now, my plan for these wall ball was to do these in sets of 10 all the way across here. And I just know with my wall ball capacity that sets of 10 are, it's manageable, and it prevents some of the shoulder fatigue that I would normally get if I started to do bigger sets, if I went like 15, 15, 10, 10. So what you'll see here is I'll drop the ball every 10, but I'm not taking this huge break, like hands on my knees kind of thing. That happens later in the workout, don't worry. What I'm trying to do here is just hit my 10, let the ball settle for a second, let my heart rate settle for a second, let my shoulders, kind of drop. Because when you're doing wall ball, you got your hands up in front of your face. And so you're not getting a lot of blood to your arms. And you can see even in some of these, it's not this set, I think it started the next set, where I actually start to drop my arms during the wall ball. Again, just doing that to get some blood in my shoulders and blood in my arms. Some other things that I'm always thinking about with the wall ball is just making sure that I'm breathing all the way through, never holding my breath and bracing with it in the bottom. That's the best way to get your heart rate just completely jacked up. So we're right at like 210 here. That was finishing 30 wall ball. So it's about, if you think about it, we started the wall ball right at a minute. So we're doing about 30 wall ball per minute with breaks, which I usually think about wall ball taking about 2 seconds per rep. You can see there's me dropping my arms, just trying to get some blood back into the shoulders. But usually I think about 1 rep every 2 seconds for a wall ball. And even with the drops, we're pretty close to holding on to 1 rep every 2 seconds. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, is that you can get away with cycling the ball pretty fast with a quick drop and actually get some rest and still be able to maintain basically the same speed that most people are. So that's the end of the wall ball. That was the 50 wall ball there. Again, we talked about this in the strategy video, but try and keep your transitions as fast as possible. When I'm doing burpees, the points of performance and kind of efficiency tips that I'm thinking about, I definitely just hit my head on the bar, are number one, stay close. I hit my head on the bar, so that's one of the things I'm thinking about. Stay low to the bar. Now, with this being 25 and me trying to kind of slow my cycle rate down just a little bit to try and preserve breathing and heart rate for later in the workout, I actually stood a little bit taller than I normally would, but I'm also trying, if you watch, to turn in the air so that I'm minimizing how much work I have to do on the ground on the other side of the bar. So you can see when I hit that burpee, turn in the air, again, turn in the air. And I'm also stepping into my turn versus stepping away from the turn. A lot of people, they'll step and rotate their hips in the opposite direction, and I'm trying to step into the turn every time. Those are just some little efficiency things that I'm trying to think about. Early on in the burpee sets, I was trying to get a pretty quick pop off the floor, but as I got more fatigued here and realizing that I'm getting pretty fatigued going into the hang power cleans, I needed to slow down the cycle rate a little bit. I got to this point, and honestly, this transition should have been a little bit faster. I probably didn't need that chalk, but I was pretty tired, to be honest. I was definitely more fatigued getting to this point than I thought I was gonna be. And also, I figured out really quick in this set, my original plan was to go 10s all the way across these. And I figured out in that first set that this was basically the crux of the workout. I would recommend against dropping into a squat to rest like that. But honestly, like I said, this was the hard part of the workout. I just tried to make myself hold to a new strategy, which I formulated in the moment, which was a set of 8 and then sets of 7 to finish. I didn't quite hold on to that. My last 3 sets were, I think, 4, 5, 5. So I fell off that a little bit on the last 14 reps. But overall, I was just trying to cycle these as efficiently as possible, keep my grip and forearms as loose as possible, because after this, you're going back to double unders, and it's hard to cycle double unders with your grip and forearms blown up. So that was really what I was trying to pay attention to here, and just making sure that I was keeping my rest breaks as short as possible off the bar. And you can see I wasn't counting it out, but it was definitely as short as I could keep it at this point. Obviously not the best resting posture in the world, but again, that was a 6 second rest there. So, keep track, have someone count it out. That's usually helpful. I think if I had someone counting out my rest for 5 seconds, I might have been able to get a little bit deeper into these sets. But yeah, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, approaching the bar, 9, 10. That was a much longer rest break than some of the previous ones. And I think this is my shortest set. I think this is the set of 4 here. But at this point, my grip was pretty taxed. So I'm having a hard time keeping a grip on the bar. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. And then I finish out these last 2 in 5 and 5. So I was doing the best I could to try and hit these bigger sets, these sets of 7. But at this point, I couldn't really cycle the bar off the high hip. I was having to go into more of a hinge. So, I was pretty gassed at this point. And also, knowing that I'm going right into the double unders, that you're gonna have to try to push for an unbroken set, I think I wanted to hit some smaller sets right here. So that was really my kind of target at the end of this. So going into the double unders, honestly, I wasn't sure that I was gonna be able to do these unbroken. I was pretty concerned with the amount of grip and forearm fatigue that I had. And it really felt like I was super sluggish spinning the rope here. And honestly, until I was at like 30 reps, I was thinking that I was gonna end up tripping just because I felt like the rope was spinning really slow because my forearms were so fatigued. So I just kind of willed myself through these first 30. And then once I got to 30, I was pretty confident that I'd be able to finish it. Now, I will say, right around the 50 to 60 rep mark, we're probably getting pretty close to that point. Man, I felt like my legs were starting to go numb. My hands were starting to go numb. And that's just part of the consequence of pushing on the burpees and the hang cleans. But I think that, like I said, the hang cleans are the crux of the workout. And you're gonna have to deal with some of that consequence when you get here. This is why it really does matter, spending time in the off season on double under strategy and double under technique so that you can deal with that stuff. But as you can see, this is a pretty fast chipper. I think the total time there was, just under 8 minutes. And I was pretty messed up for that being the first workout back after the games, man.
Harder than I expected. My plan going in was 10, then 8 for 5 sets. I hit 8, then 7s. So 7 sets total. No, it might have been more than that, because I think my last 3 sets were 4, 5, 5. So it would have been 8 sets. Wall ball was smart. I'd stick with the 10s again. Burpees, just keep them fast. Double unders are gonna hurt. Just keep going. By the time I got to 50, I knew for sure that I could finish it unbroken. That's my advice.
All right, guys, good luck. Remember to download that strategy guide below. We've got way more in-depth information in there, including how to break down strategies, some charts on row pacing. It'll definitely help out. Good luck on these. Remember, effort is a choice. Go give it your best.